today we start from something that we made last webinar, and I have prepared some Excel files. So today, basically, we will work learning how to take information from Excel file. I have two kind of files. One is a sort of ERP file. This is pure non-realistic data. I use the formula in Excel to generate random part numbers, random pricing, and random stock. But I have realistic model codes and manufacturers. And this file has about 5,000 model codes. You can have 20,000, 60,000 model codes, no problem. It will be fast enough to work. This is at the end of today's session. We will see how to read information from an external file. So I will put it down for a moment. And while I will try to import some data into Library Manager from an Excel spreadsheet. This is similar to what I did last time. I added some more items, some directional control valves, HyDraw in this case. I will not import all. I will show you how to import a few items in the library and also how to import accessories and how to link components with accessories. So let me start. Let me go to the Library Manager. I want to go to the components. I need to link to some symbols which I know where they are located. I go to screw and cartridge valve, directional solenoid controlled, and two-way to position. The symbol is normally closed unidirectional pilot operated valve. And I want to import model data and link, selecting the file, my model code Excel file. If you remember, my model code has several columns and several sheets. In this case, I have two different Excel sheet, components and accessories. I go to components. I want to add the new models by model code. In my Excel sheet, I don't have any part number. I will show you how to retrieve part number information from HyDraw directly. Next. My Excel file has a lot of different headers, so I want to import the model family, model code, description, manufacturer. Cracking pressure is not relevant for this kind of valve, so I skip it. Seal, type, rated pressure, rated flow voltage, and connector, and tightening torque, and cavity. Next. If the columns is okay, then it is automatically mapped. If the column name is similar to the attribute in HyDraw, this is going to be automatically mapped. Let me map the connector with, well, let me skip connector for the moment. Let me not map connector. I click next. Now HyDraw is reading the Excel file. I have a big list of items. So none of those items is in my library. And I jump to the end and I import just a few directional control valve HyDraw, and I click import. Yes. So in this way, I have linked to this symbol 4 items from HyDraw. Now, something that we saw last time, but not in details, I wanted to link datasheet to these 4 cartridge valves. So to link datasheet, it is possible to do one by one directly from this page. So just to clarify, here we are inside components, inside the symbol view. We have selected a symbol. On the right, we can see all the components linked to that symbol. And from this dialog, we can edit single lines, and we could also technically link documentation here. But since in this case we have 4 items that will be mapped by the same datasheet, we don't want to do 4 times. We do 1 in a row, and we cannot do that here. We must go to the model data view. And the model data view will list as all the components we have in the library. This is a clean library I'm using just for the purpose of this webinar. I want to link datasheet, so I select all the 4 items, and with a right click, I want to link documents. I have no datasheet so far in my library, so I need to load the datasheet in my library. So by clicking Add New, we can go into the repository where we have our datasheet. Let me go to my Vault workspace. I have a folder called documentation where I have different datasheet by manufacturer. Okay, that's my root folder. Now I want to take all the HyDraw datasheet. I select all. I specify a category. I don't recommend to use the standard datasheet category because normally you expect to treat several datasheets in your library. So my recommendation is always start building category. I suggest by manufacturer, HyDraw, then we can go with Parker, then we go with Diplomatic and Ethos, and so on. So you can create as many categories as you want. And those are HyDraw. So from the drop down, we select the HyDraw datasheet, the HyDraw category, and we click OK. So now, as you can see, I have loaded all the HyDraw datasheet. Since I'm here, I will do also the loading for all the Parker datasheet and load. So loading datasheet in the database is very easy if they are arranged. Let me load some Sun Hydraulics. Category is not there. Let me create the Sun Hydraulics category. And Sun Hydraulics. Okay, and so on. So now my 4 components they are selected must be linked to the WS. So you can search WS, the placeholder is %, %WS will find everything that is included in WS, %10, and it will find directly WS Z01. Having the possibility to filter by category allows you to quickly reduce the number of datasheets that you see in the main page. We expect to have several hundreds of datasheets in a library. So having the categories is a good idea, and then you can filter by name. When you select the datasheet, you click OK, and now the datasheet is linked to the components in the library. So now, as you can see, I have linked a PDF to these components. The same process can be used to link 3D models. So all these valve, well, technically not all, maybe only those 2, those without manual override, will be linked to the same identical 3D model. So we select both, we right click, and instead of linking documents, we link CAD files. I want to add the new, I don't have any CAD file here. I have same repository, my Vault workspace. And now I want to take all HyDraw valves. I select all, and again, same story. I create some categories, HyDraw, Parker, Sun Hydraulics, and so on. Those are all HyDraw, and I can click OK. Now I have loaded all the HyDraw 3D model, and at the same time, I can look for the WSZ. This is my valve, and I click OK. So now these 2 components have a PDF and a 3D model. In the next webinar about HyDraw to MD2's integration, we will be able to understand why we link the 3D model here. And the 3D model may be Inventor, or at the same time may be SolidWorks. So in CAD files, I can also load my 3D model SolidWorks. So I do the same, HyDraw, select all. Normally, people do not have different CAD application, CAD systems. So in this case, I will create a new category for myself called HyDraw SolidWorks, just to differentiate with the Inventor. And that's not HyDraw SolidWorks. Okay, and this is loading also the SolidWorks file. So we are not storing files in the database. We are simply addressing in the database. We put a record in the database and we link this file with a component. As always, if you have any question, let me open the question. Okay, so let me get back. So now we have seen how to import Excel file linked to a symbol. We have linked the datasheet and we have linked also 3D model. The next step I want to do is being able to link accessories. But as of now, I don't have any accessory in the library loaded. In fact, if I click select from library, as you can see, there is nothing here. So to manage accessories, we go to the accessory tab. Accessory is very similar to a component. An accessory is simply a component that has no symbol. And so it is even easier to manage accessory in the library because we don't have the problem to link to a corresponding symbol. So like I did for the components importing from an Excel file, I do here, I import from the same Excel file. I will import. And now the source Excel sheet is the accessories. I want to add new models. I have headers, select all. Next, I can map, well, in this case, I put the column name that are easy to remember also and matching the property for HyDraw database. If there is no mapping automatically, you just click map property and you select the correct attribute, voltage. Next. Now I am missing one information, which is basically the component type. All these items I am importing are coils, so I select all. And if the component type is not in the Excel file, you must assign a component type to the components when you import in the library. So you click on the assign component type, and that's a coil. You can search coil and electronics. Okay, this will load that definition to the corresponding column, and we can click import. Yes, and close. So as we can see, all attributes relevant to the coils have been loaded. Accessories may have a datasheet as well, so we can select all the accessories, right-click, link documents. Hopefully the document has already been loaded. Let me check if we have the, yes, HyDraw coils, this one. Okay. And in this way, I have linked automatically to all the coils this accessory, this datasheet, which I can open, and this will open the datasheet in my system. Now, not all these accessories will be linked to the same coil, so that valve WS10Z is linked to coil 41836. I can link a 3D model also to these items. Of course, there will be different 3D model by a different connector. So in this case, the DG, these two will have the same 3D model, link CAD files. And in this case, I will be able to take the coil DG. Okay. So you can link 3D models also to the coils as well. So as you see now, I have this component with model data, document, and 3D model. Now I go back to the components because I want to link all the 41836 size coils to that cartridge valve. So I go to the components. I select all the 4 valves. I right-click and link accessories. In this case, it makes sense to filter by family. You can type in model code, always using %. You can filter by manufacturer, by component type. Basically, I select all the family 40-1836 and click OK. Now, if we look at one single component, we can see something interesting. So basically, for this component, we have data, we have technical documentation, we have CAD files, and we have a set of available accessories. Let's see what happens when we use this component in HyDrawCAD. So we go to HyDrawCAD and we start a new drawing. Let me load my symbol. So we will search for this WSZ, and we will see what happens with all the accessories. So we go in the search for components, and in the local database, we look for the WS10Z, enter. We take one of these. With a right click, we can view the datasheet. So easily, directly on the drawing space, we have the possibility to look at technical documentation for the component. We can double click and place the symbol in the drawing. Now HyDrawCAD will ask me which coil I want to use. I may say, no, I don't want to use the coil now, cancel. So as you can see, now the symbol is coming with one balloon only, and no coils at all. If we go to the property manager for this symbol and click on the accessory, let me highlight it. So on the accessory, so we don't want to create a new accessory now. We want to select from the library. So we use the second command, select from library. Now select from library, we'll be able to find that there are several accessories linked to the same component. We can sort by connector, by voltage, and we can say, let's take a DIN 24 volt. We select and click OK. So in this case, now we have our component with model data. We have linked an accessory with model data as well, and documentation as well, in terms of coil and CAD file. And of course, we have the primary documentation, coil, and documentation for the valve and the 3D model. So in this way, we have connected everything. We can use the cartridge on its own, like we did. With a double click, we place the cartridge in the drawing. And if we want, we can select immediately which coil we want. Otherwise, we click cancel and select at a later stage. And we have all the technical documentation linked to that. If we collect all documentation from our drawing for all the components, external ports, and accessories, now HyDrawCAD is able to find the two datasheets that are linked, one to the component. So this is the datasheet of the component, of the two components, and this one is the datasheet linked to the accessory. 1-1 because it's the child of item 1. So when we collect documents, we can retrieve all the documents attached to the component and to the accessory as well. If there are no questions on this, so we made a full circle. We imported an Excel file to a symbol. We took the symbol. We imported from an Excel file. We went to the model data and we linked the datasheet and CAD files. We went to the accessories. We imported several accessories, and we get back to the components and linked all the accessories to the relevant components. Now, I want to show you how to read information from the other Excel file directly in the HyDrawCAD drawing. As you can see, the structure of this file is very simple. We have a column for model code, a manufacturer, a part number, and a price and a stock. In order to be able to use the stock information, I will need, so this is a small exercise we do again, although we did the last time as well. I go to the model properties, and I will create a new property called the stock. And the property is a number. and I want to assign to all component types. So I need a property called the stock if I want to manage the stock for the components. And now let me close. This is enough. I need to close the file, which I already did. And there is a utility installed with the HyDraw Library Manager, which is called, you find it under VEST command, VEST program, and it is called HyDraw Update from Excel 2020 if you are running the 2020, or 2019. I also have the 2021 because I have a beta of the coming version. I run the 2020 version. HydroCAD is asking which file you want to use. So I go to the location where I have my ERP data. So I'm loading the Excel file, and the Excel file may have several sheets. And as you can see, it finds only one sheet, in this case, with 5 attributes. I want to select all and click next. I can map, so I can make the price with the, let's say, I don't know if I have a price of the, let's say cost, not the same item, but and stock, I want to map with the stock. Okay, so when you click OK, HydroCAD is creating an XML file. So even if in your environment you don't have this utility, which is called HyDraw Update from Excel, still you will be able to map HydroCAD with Excel just by having the XML configuration file. I'll show you the XML configuration file, but if you need also to manually prepare it, it's easy. Let me, and we can support later if you need some help with setting it up. Let me show you how the XML file is made. Let me edit with a notepad. The structure is very simple. Now let me open with a notepad. Modify. Not with this notepad. Okay, here it is. And let me open it. So as you can see, basically, except for the header, basically this is the structure. We have a model code and the column name in the Excel file. So we basically map with an XML file the name of the attribute and with a column in the Excel file. We can support you in the creation of this file if you don't have the setup for the interface with Excel. What we need to make the Excel interface work in HydroCAD is basically these two files, the ERP data and the ERP service configuration XML. There is a setting in HydroCAD that we make available just by using the options. It is called Update from Excel, and we just need to select which is the file that we need to use. So browse, and we go to Data, Vest, HyDraw Library 2020, Webinar 2020. That's my file, ERP data. That's it. And I am searching by model code. Okay. If you remember, my Excel file is a big list of items, and let's see how we can use it on standard behavior, standard working. So in that file, I have several Sun hydraulics components. Let me search for a CBCH valve. In Fluid Power Tools, we don't store all the model codes for a component. So you can see here, I have found a CBCH, but the model code has 2 stars at the end. It's not a complete model code. We don't store all the possible configuration. But let me run the Excel interface. Let me change color. Update from Excel for this component. So we update from Excel on this component, including all. And now HydroCAD is asking me to select from the Excel file and it is finding 4 items matching that route, CBCHL, JN, with a cost and stock and part number. I click OK and update. Now, as you can see, this tool brought directly into the drawing the cost and the part number and the complete model code. And this can work very interestingly in any kind of item, CV 10-20. I take a generic. And if I run update from Excel on a selection of components, include all, this one has nothing to update. It's already up to date. This one is not up to date. And I can view and sort by stock. So I can select maybe this valve because I have 7 in my stock and update. And now my component has updated the information for the stock, for the price, and the part number. So basically, with the update from Excel, we have the possibility to create a part list with exactly our part number, exactly our codes, simply by using components from fluidpowertools.com. Of course, if we save this component to the library, then we are creating in our library items that are 100% matching our standard model codes and part numbers and items that we want to manage in our library. I think we are running out of time. We have 2 minutes left. I wanted to show something else regarding pipe and tubes, but maybe we will need to shift to another session.
Were there any
feel
questions?
Free to
Anyone
post
had?
any question?
Yeah. We did have one come in, Carlo. How can I add additional HyDraw equivalent properties for mapping if not existing?
Okay, so but basically it is what I did. I knew that the stock property was not available, and let me do something else. Let me import. Again, let me say symbol view. I go into the check valve and I import from the same, always the same Excel file. Components. And I select all. I don't mind. I select all. I need to map everything. Model family. Cracking pressure. Seal type. Rated pressure. Rated flow. Voltage connector. Connector is not there, so this is an example. Connector, I don't have a property called connector. In fact, that's why I didn't select it. So in this case, you don't have a property. You could select a temporary property, something that makes sense, type or something else. But in this case, really, you must create a new property. So let's create a property called connector. So we go back to the model properties. We create a new property called a connector. The data type is a text, that is fine, and we can assign to the component types that we need. And we assign to the directional control valve screwing cartridge. Okay, and save. So next time we import, we will have the property called the connector. Or at the same time, that problem of price or cost. If we don't have a property called price, let me check. I don't think I have. Although really it does not make sense to have a property called price. Usually it's cost. But you can create a property called price, and it's a currency, and you can assign to all the component types. So if you miss attributes, you just go into the library manager and you create the missing attributes. Otherwise, you must map to what is available for that component type. I hope I answered the question.